So this this model of positive thinking, the idea that, oh, if I focus my mind, I can make manifest, in my life. I think it's utterly ridiculous, really. Um, Let me explain. The positive thinking model puts all the stress, importance, and pressures of life on the thought process, saying that the entirety of one's life is determined by the thought process. Now, it is definitely true that a large amount of your experience interplays with the way you think. The way you view things is definitely going to affect you. I'm not saying that's not true, that is absolutely true. But the amount of importance which this model puts on the thought process is absurd. Think of this. Practitioners of meditation, from novices to masters, there is at some point in meditation this small window. It could be just a couple seconds, but if you move up the scale it can be for hours, or But there is a small window in which all thought ceases. That is the goal of meditation, to silence the mind. They are at this place of no thought. The When you meditate and you achieve this, or even get near it, you realize that the whole of existence, the whole of your being, is so much larger than the thought process. These people, on the other hand, are trying to make the thought process much larger than the experience. This whole positive thinking model became very popular in the late 60s, very early 70s. And it's been around, especially in America, ever since. But if you were to ever look into these people who first started this, some of them became neurotic, some of them ended up in asylums, some of them committed suicide. Because the intellect is a finite thing. You can only stretch the intellectual so far until it breaks and shatters. When you consider this, is it any big surprise why high-profile people, politicians, celebrities, leaders, and public light figures of all kind eventually have their crack-ups, and in the public eye as well, because intellectually they're put under so much strain, it breaks, eventually breaks down. See, now, I'm not saying that thought process is not powerful. It is powerful, it's very powerful, in fact. And yes, if you really focus your mind enough, you may be able to affect things in your life. And it creates a bit of a high for you, like, ooh, I can do this, I have, I can change things. But that's not reality. You can affect your surroundings to an extent, but you eventually have to come down from that power trip, don't you? And when you do, there's really nothing for you to stand on, because this isn't reality. I think much more importance should be put on the action process. Thoughts are powerful, but only because they lead to the process of action. Say I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to go to India. I really want to go to India. Well, I can sit here for hours and hours just thinking and focusing all my mental and spiritual energy on that one thought. I want to go to India, I will go to India, I will go to India. But nothing will happen because I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything about it. The thought, I want to go to India, has power, but only when It actually makes me arise from my inert state and actually begin an action process towards going to India. You know, looking up airplane tickets, planning out uh, an agenda for my trip, seeing what I want to do. In that situation, yes, my thought absolutely has a lot of primal power, but only when coupled with the action process. On top of that, I'd like to point out that the idea that simply viewing everything in one way will change it is ridiculous as well. You'll hear people like, oh, well, you know, if you just stayed more positive and viewed everything as optimistic and positive, you know, it's going to, you know, your life will be much better. The only reason you're having this problem is because of how negative you are. Well, that's not entirely true either, is it? Because the universe is not entirely negative. It's not entirely positive either. To view life in extremes like that is just... it's unhealthy. The better way to look at it is to say that life simply is how it is. It has its good points, it has its bad points. Rather than assigning blame or saying this is a good thing or this is a bad thing, accept what's going on around you and act as organically as you can for the betterment of yourself. Think about that.